The hammer's finally coming down on Minnesota, and it's about time. We're talking about billions, with a B, in your hard-earned wealth just vanishing into thin air. Now, the feds are actually showing up to collect. That era where people could just loot the state and get away with it, it's over. Done. For years, a dark cloud's been hanging over the North Star State. And let's be honest, it's a total breakdown on a scale we've never seen. While Governor Tim Walz was at the helm, money that was supposed to help the most vulnerable was instead funneled into a massive web of fake companies. We're not just looking at a few bad apples here. We're talking about professional, organized networks that treated the U.S. Treasury like their own personal ATM. Think about that. While you were struggling to keep your business or your job during the pandemic, these guys were reportedly siphoning off billions in relief funds. It wasn't an accident. It was a calculated heist of a wide-open system. The sheer size of this theft, it's hard to even wrap your head around. Real Minnesotans were fighting to survive, while these ghost entities were making up names and identities out of thin air. How do you leave the gates wide open for that long? The negligence is honestly staggering. And now, regular Americans are finally asking the question, who let this happen? Now the heat is turning up on the biggest offices in the state. How do you explain Governor Tim Walz and Representative Ilhan Omar overseeing a region where any kind of oversight was treated like the enemy? Critics are saying a culture of political correctness was the perfect smokescreen for this massive failure. Every time someone raised a red flag, they got slapped with accusations of bias. But look, the math doesn't lie. The new leadership at the Department of Labor, led by Chavez-DeRemer, isn't playing those games. They aren't looking the other way anymore. They're digging into a state bureaucracy that seemed to care more about how things looked than whether your tax dollars were actually safe. You have to wonder, did these politicians actually benefit from the support of the people running these networks? This investigation is set to cut off the influence of these shady interests once and for all. The old line of some people did some things just isn't going to cut it anymore. Not when those things involve stealing the American dream right out from under us. His isn't just a polite suggestion from DC anymore. It's a full-on strike. A specialized federal task force is hitting the ground in Minneapolis with one job: shut down the fraud and claw back every cent they can. We've moved past simple paperwork. This is a criminal probe into what looks like organized crime running rampant across an entire state. The Inspector General is tearing through the records of these fake businesses that were all over the Minneapolis streets on paper, but didn't exist in the real world. These ghost companies were just pipelines to move cash through complex overseas channels. The new administration's operation is built to rip those pipelines out of the ground. We're seeing a total shift from sitting on the sidelines to active, aggressive enforcement. The message is loud and clear. If you stole from the American worker, there's no place left to hide. That safe list of political buddies, it won't save anyone from these kinds of ethical disasters. The team is on the ground and the evidence is piling up fast. What's really scary? This mess goes way beyond the Minnesota border. Investigators are following the money trail, and more often than not, it leads straight overseas. This was a massive one-way transfer of wealth, taking money right out of the pockets of Midwest taxpayers and dumping it into global networks. This wasn't some amateur hour. The way they laundered this cash shows they knew exactly what they were doing. They were dismantling the American safety net because they saw our generosity as a weakness to be exploited. Right now, the Department of Labor is teaming up with international partners to freeze those accounts and hunt down the ringleaders. The goal is to make sure these massive hits to our financial security are fixed by bringing that money back home. Remember, every dollar these people pocketed is a dollar taken from a veteran, a mom working 2 jobs, or a senior on a fixed income. Local officials can scream and fight all they want, but they won't stop the truth from coming out. The day of reckoning is finally here for the rot that's been eating away at Minnesota. This is more than just a courtroom battle. It's a fight for the very soul and integrity of the country. We can't just sit back and let our systems be gutted by people who clearly despise our laws and our values. The probe into what Walz and Omar knew and when they knew it is just getting started. We have to hold these leaders to a standard that actually means something. If they couldn't protect the Treasury, they failed you. Plain and simple. This total breakdown in Minnesota is a massive warning light for every other state. If there's corruption, it's going to be found, exposed, and stopped. The American people are watching this play out, and they're done with the excuses. They're done with the scandals. They want their money back, and they want the people responsible to actually face the music. The lights are finally being turned on in the dark corners of Minneapolis, and frankly, it's about time.